Name's Harrison George. I'm the CAD and implant manager. I've been with Vitality Dental Arts since day one, 2011, first employee. With CAD, we digitize everything from a physical form. We use a computer to aid us in designing this restoration. That enables us to be more efficient. It also increases accuracy by eliminating a lot of human error. Depending on the implant system or the implant placement, we have several different options as far as restorations go. After a doctor places an implant, to design the best possible restoration that not only fills that space, but long-term is going to be in the best interest. So the implant placement is a lot of times paramount. The objective is to create a restoration that's going to last the longest amount of time and not cause the patient any health issues. When we get a case in, either a doctor scans the patient intraorally using a scan body, and the scan body transmits to us the depth, the rotation, the angulation of the actual implant. It also tells us what implant system and size was used. The alternative traditional method for taking an implant impression would be the analog method with PVS impression material. And instead of a scan body, a doctor would use an impression coping. Now, the impression coping and the scan body both effectively do the same thing. So the doctor would take a scan body or an impression coping and screw it into the actual patient's implant. And then they would either take a scan of that scan body in place after they verify that it's fully seated, or they will take a PVS impression encapsulating the impression coping. Once we receive that impression from a doctor's office, we'll take a lab analog, which effectively is an implant replica. Its job is to replicate the actual implant that's in the patient's mouth. So each implant system will have different platform sizes. We have to match up that impression coping with the proper analog that fits it, right? So we'll take the impression coping and we'll screw it into this lab analog. Then we'll place it back into the PVS impression, the impression coping. If it's a closed tray style technique. If it's an open tray style, the impression coping, all that means is the impression coping stays locked inside of the impression. So there's a screw that sticks out from the other side of the impression. We'll then place the analog and screw it together. We'll pour a soft tissue model, meaning we use a gingival mask material just around the implant site. And what that does is it'll replicate the actual soft tissue. Once we've done the soft tissue application, it'll go off to our model department and they'll pour up the stone model. If all goes according to plan, what we've done is just created a reverse copy. We use 3Shape scanners as well as 3Shape design software. The 3Shape scanner will scan that scan body and digitize the actual case. So each scan body, we have a digital library that's tied to that specific scan body. So then when we get to the design stage, it digitizes an analog. We then pull it up. Everything's preset as far as it knows what system it is, it knows the depth, angulation, and rotation of the implant. And it's a fantastic software with a lot of different features. And what the 3Shape design software allows us to do is it allows us to survey every detail that could possibly, cause an issue. It bold outlines the tissue and the emergence profile, meaning from where the top of the implant interface starts to the top of the gum tissue, right? Most implants are placed subgingival, meaning below the gum line. So that emergence profile, especially right as you start emerging out of that implant interface, it's crucial. Depending on the implant size you use or how big of a space you're trying to fill, the mix of those two variables can result in different design philosophies. Basically, the goal is to create a implant crown that's anatomically correct, that has a nice natural emergence profile. We also want to design the restoration so that it's durable. If a doctor scans the scan body directly in the patient's mouth and they know that it's fully torqued in and seated, then they're cutting out all those steps in the stone models, the PVS impressions, making sure it's properly engaged all the way. You're eliminating those variables, so inherently scanning is more accurate. The difference in the workflow is you're basically just starting out digital, or we're going analog, traditional method, and converting it to digital in the lab. Both systems work completely. It's just a matter of the doctors doing their due diligence and the lab holding up on our end as well to make sure everything's working properly.
Visit vitalitydentalarts.com.